Emma and Jason appeared to be the perfect couple, admired by friends and neighbors alike, but behind closed doors, jealousy was building into a deadly obsession that would shatter their lives forever. On the surface, Emma and Jason's life seemed like a dream. They lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, in a house with a perfectly manicured lawn and pristine interiors. Their friends envied their relationship, and neighbors often commented on how devoted they appeared to each other. Social media painted an even brighter picture. Photos of romantic dinners, vacations, and happy celebrations filled their profiles. They looked like a couple destined for a lifetime of love and success. But beneath the polished exterior, cracks were beginning to form. Small disagreements, once easily dismissed, started to linger. Emma, ambitious and focused on her marketing career, spent long hours at work, chasing promotions and managing demanding projects. Jason, an engineer, often found himself buried in deadlines and technical problems, leaving little time for meaningful connection. Their schedules rarely aligned, and the time they did spend together became increasingly strained. What had once been playful banter started turning into tense conversations, and moments of silence carried the weight of unspoken frustrations. Jason's insecurities slowly began to surface. He started noticing details that never seemed important before: Emma's interactions with coworkers, her laughter at small jokes, her casual messages on her phone. He began questioning her motives in ways that made Emma feel uneasy, though she initially dismissed his concerns as overthinking. Jason's curiosity quickly escalated into suspicion, and suspicion into obsession. He started checking her phone and emails, searching for signs that might confirm his growing fears. Emma noticed that her personal space felt invaded, but she assumed it was just a phase, something temporary that would pass with time. Even the home they shared began to reflect the tension between them. Small items disappeared or were moved. Simple notes and reminders went missing. Friends noticed Jason growing more withdrawn, more preoccupied, but none could pinpoint the cause. To outsiders, Emma and Jason maintained the image of a perfect couple, smiling for photos, attending events together, and sharing casual jokes. Yet, behind closed doors, their relationship was quietly unraveling. It was a subtle transformation, almost invisible to those around them. Yet the undercurrents of jealousy, suspicion, and mistrust were gathering strength, moving toward a breaking point that neither Emma nor Jason could have foreseen. The perfect couple, admired by all, was hiding a darkness that would soon surface in ways that would shock everyone who knew them. Jason's jealousy became more than just a passing feeling; it consumed him entirely. Every time Emma left the house, he found himself imagining scenarios in which she might betray him. He memorized her daily routines, noting when she left for work, when she stopped for coffee, and even how long she lingered at a friend's house. He tracked her movements subtly, learning patterns that would help him monitor her without drawing attention. Friends began noticing changes in his personality. He was quieter, more withdrawn, and often seemed tense for no apparent reason. Even when he smiled or laughed, there was a shadow of suspicion behind his eyes, a constant vigilance that made those around him uneasy. Emma, on the other hand, remained focused on her career and social life, unaware of the intensity of Jason's surveillance. She noticed small oddities: her phone battery dying unusually fast, messages disappearing, or objects in her apartment being slightly out of place, but she brushed them off as forgetfulness or technical glitches. She believed their relationship struggles were minor, temporary frustrations that could be resolved with patience. What she could not see was that Jason's mind was building a detailed map of her life, observing every interaction and interpreting even innocent gestures as threats to his control. Jason's obsession extended beyond watching her. He created fake accounts on social media, following Emma's every post and even commenting anonymously to provoke or gauge reactions. He scrutinized her interactions with coworkers, turning mundane conversations into evidence of imagined betrayal. His imagination amplified every smile or casual remark, twisting reality into a story where Emma was constantly hiding something from him. At home, the tension became palpable. Emma started sensing an unspoken unease in the way Jason moved around the house. He would hover near her while she worked on her laptop, subtly redirect her attention, or insist on accompanying her on errands. Friends noticed bruises on Jason's arms which he refused to explain, and his temper seemed increasingly unpredictable. Even minor disagreements would escalate quickly, leaving Emma confused and frightened. The stage was being set for a confrontation that neither could ignore. Jason's obsessive behavior was no longer a private struggle, it had become an invisible prison for Emma, confining her within walls of suspicion and fear. Every day brought more tension, more monitoring, and more manipulation. What had started as a normal relationship was now a dangerous imbalance, where trust had been replaced by surveillance, love by control, and calm by a creeping sense of dread. The storm was quietly gathering strength, and neither of them could see how violently it was about to break. Jason's obsession reached a dangerous level, transforming from mere suspicion into a methodical plan. Every thought, every action he took, was focused on controlling Emma's life completely. He convinced himself that she was hiding things, that her independence was a threat, and that the only way to protect their relationship was to monitor and manipulate her constantly. He began preparing the house in ways that no one would notice, but that gave him a sense of security. Locks were checked repeatedly, items that could be used as evidence were removed, and small changes were made to the layout of the home to maintain control over the environment. Emma remained largely unaware of the extent of Jason's plotting. She noticed subtle shifts in his behavior. He was quieter, more intense, and increasingly critical, but she attributed it to stress or overwork. She had no idea that Jason had started imagining scenarios in which she would leave him, interact with other people, secretly, or betray his trust. Every harmless encounter, every innocent laugh or casual conversation, became a point of paranoia in his mind. Jason began keeping meticulous records, mentally noting times, locations, and behaviors. He tracked Emma's phone, her messages, and even her online activity, convinced that patterns of betrayal would appear if he looked closely enough. He fabricated a narrative in which Emma was planning to abandon him, and every small action on her part seemed to confirm it. What began as quiet obsession grew into an elaborate scheme, a plan that he carefully rehearsed in his mind over days and weeks. The tension between them increased steadily. Jason insisted on accompanying Emma everywhere, questioned her motives repeatedly, and made subtle accusations disguised as concern. Emma began feeling trapped, her sense of normalcy slipping as Jason's behavior became harder to ignore. Friends started noticing her anxiety, the way she seemed hesitant to speak freely, or how she double-checked her phone and personal belongings. They couldn't see the full extent of what was happening, but the unease was palpable. As the days passed, the house itself seemed to echo the growing danger. Every corner became a reminder of Jason's scrutiny, every object a potential piece in his imagined puzzle of betrayal. The careful balance of their relationship had tipped, and the quiet buildup of tension was about to erupt. Jason's mind was fully consumed by the plan he had created, and the sense of impending confrontation hung in the air, heavy and unavoidable. The couple that once seemed perfect on the outside now teetered on the edge of tragedy, and no one could predict just how violently that edge would be reached. The day began like any other, but the atmosphere in the house was thick with tension. Emma left early for work, unaware that Jason had already spent hours preparing for what he had planned. He moved quietly, checking locks, adjusting cameras, and ensuring that every detail was under his control. Every step he took was calculated, driven by a mix of paranoia and determination. In his mind, he was protecting what was his, though the reality was far more dangerous. Emma returned home that evening, tired but unaware of the storm waiting for her. Jason's presence felt heavier than usual. The energy in the house had shifted. Small gestures seemed loaded, and the air felt charged with unspoken threats. Emma sensed that something was off but could not identify exactly what. The tension escalated silently, building in intensity until it could no longer be contained. Every move they made in the house felt like a part of a precarious dance, each step threatening to tip the balance. Jason confronted Emma, though not in words that anyone else could have anticipated. His accusations were sharp and irrational, fueled by weeks of obsessive planning and imagined betrayals. Every casual action Emma had taken over the past days, even weeks, was twisted in his mind into evidence of disloyalty. The argument escalated quickly. Small disagreements turned into explosive confrontations. The atmosphere, once familiar and comfortable, became suffocating, and the sense of impending disaster grew more tangible with each passing moment. Within the walls of their home, the tension reached a climax. Jason's obsession, which had been quietly growing for months, now manifested in actions that were impossible to ignore. Emma felt trapped, every exit blocked by the weight of his scrutiny and the intensity of his focus. What had started as subtle jealousy now consumed every corner of the room. The confrontation, inevitable and unavoidable, erupted into chaos that neither could have controlled. Afterward, an eerie calm settled over the house. Jason moved methodically, cleaning up, rearranging, and erasing traces of what had occurred. He appeared composed, almost as if nothing had changed, though the home bore the marks of the night's events. Outside, neighbors heard noises but assumed it was a domestic disagreement, nothing more. Inside, the reality was far more sinister. Emma's absence would soon be noticed, and the chilling consequences of Jason's obsession would begin to surface. The stage was set for a shocking discovery, one that would shake friends, neighbors, and authorities to their core. Emma's absence quickly raised alarms. She failed to show up at work for days, her phone went unanswered, and friends grew increasingly worried. The perfect image of her life, so meticulously maintained online and in public, began to crack. People started calling neighbors and family members, trying to piece together her whereabouts. When authorities were finally alerted, they arrived at the house to find a scene that told a story far darker than anyone could have imagined. Inside, investigators discovered subtle signs of struggle. Objects moved from their usual places, minor damage to furniture, and traces of activity that suggested a confrontation had occurred. The evidence pointed toward a single source, Jason. As they combed through the house, they uncovered the tools of his obsession: hidden cameras, fake social media accounts, and detailed logs tracking Emma's every move painted a picture of a mind consumed by jealousy and control. Each discovery added another layer to the chilling narrative of what had unfolded behind closed doors. Jason was taken into custody, and under questioning, the extent of his planning and surveillance became clear. Friends and neighbors struggled to reconcile the image of the happy, perfect couple with the reality of Jason's manipulations and obsessive behavior. The story that emerged was one of escalating control, paranoia, and ultimately, a dangerous obsession that had transformed from private anxiety into public tragedy. The community was left grappling with the consequences. People reflected on the warning signs that had been missed, the bruises on Jason's arms, the way Emma had begun to act cautiously around him, and the subtle shifts in their relationship that, in hindsight, pointed to the growing danger. What had appeared as minor conflicts and ordinary jealousy was, in reality, a ticking time bomb. The revelation shocked everyone, serving as a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and the people closest to us may sometimes harbor secrets that are impossible to detect. Until it's too late. Emma's disappearance and the events leading up to it became a cautionary tale, discussed widely in the media and in conversations about obsessive behavior and domestic control. It was a story that highlighted the destructive power of jealousy and the terrifying ways it can manifest when left unchecked. In the end, the life that had once seemed idyllic was revealed to be a carefully maintained facade, masking a darkness that would forever change the lives of everyone involved. The chilling reality remained: obsession can lurk in the most ordinary settings, turning love into something dangerous and leaving a trail of irreversible consequences in its wake.